guys in the dark.
So I find working at a pizza place is a thing that everybody should try at least once. I get to see the horrors of the world, as well as some of the nicest people who could ever exist, especially when I'm the one delivering that pizza. That isn't often, mind you, but still. At one time, there was a delivery that had a crackhead who leveled a shotgun at me. The next would be a sweet old lady who would tip me $25 just because it was only 37 degrees outside. You know, the world can be a very funny place. With that being said, I hope for the best, but I've learned to take the world with a grain of salt. I've learned this over the course of working at a pizza place. When I started my first shift at this pizza place, it was a family-owned, and I met two of the most interesting people that I had met up until that point. I figured that because they smiled at me. Both of them were completely normal. One was tall. He was a skinny guy who looked exactly like the cartoon Shaggy. The other one was an average height boy who looked exactly like Hal from Megamind. Well, maybe not exactly like that, but pretty damn close to it. I named him Pizza Place Beard. But now that I have given him that Megamind connection, I'm considering just naming him Hal. Shaggy and him were both very friendly to me, but Shaggy had made me feel really comfortable. Pizza Beard didn't make me feel uncomfortable, though. But Shaggy felt like an older brother, showing me the ropes of what to do and what not to do around the place. However, I did notice that as the night went on, Pizza Beard decided to get more and more harsh towards us. During the beginning of my night, Shaggy was showing me how to make a pizza, as he had rolled the dough out. He looked at me and said, "Remember, use lots of flour. These knuckleheads never use enough on it. I do. You know, whose pizza never bottom out? Mine. Mine don't." Pizza Beard blurts out, "You're so full of yourself." Suddenly, Shaggy decided to sound like Elvis. "Whoa, mama. What's not to be full of?" I laughed because that was one of the most Chad things that I have ever heard. The neckbeard had took note of this. As the day had went on, Shaggy and I had continued to talk. We got very friendly with each other. Not in that way, and though it was not apparent to me at that time, Pizza Beard happened to be getting very jealous with us. I was enjoying my time with him. And to the neckbeard, there was only one way for that to end. But he happened to be the one that kept that from happening. He ended up stopping the my lady from going home with the shagster, even though I wasn't really into that. Nobody knew this at this point. Pizza Beard ended up getting the help from his aunt, who was the boss's daughter, a legend in her own right. She thought that she could run the store, and would talk to the rest of us as if she knew what she was doing. Luckily for us, she usually never went back to go tattle on us, like the neckbeard did. As me and Shaggy had talked about our lives, I learned that he had a loving girlfriend. He knew a bit too much about guns, in his own words. He also had been working at the pizza place for nearly a year. Also, he had a knack for being a real goofball. People would call it silly things, like being a liar. He liked all that gluten-free bread. It was named after Gerald Breadman's son, Gluten Breadman, who died after eating normal bread. I asked him, "Are you serious?" "Yeah," he said. "Gerald Breadman was so upset that he created a bread without gluten in it." "Huh," I said, as I was standing there for a second, taking that as a fact. "Wait a moment." I looked at him, who was grinning like a baboon. "Whatever, you jackass." I smacked his shoulder real hard. He then held his arm and said, "I'm pressing charges against you." We laughed at ourselves for a moment, until the neckbeard had stepped in. "Stop flirting with her." "Damn it, can't I talk to a girl without you saying that I'm flirting with her?" "You said that about Ashley, Jenny, and everybody else that I was talking to and having fun with, and all you keep saying is I'm flirting with them? Come on." "Well, it looked like you were flirting to me." "Well, Rosie is a cousin of mine, and if I was flirting with her, we would have a much bigger problem on our hands now, wouldn't we?" "Well, it sure sounds like you're flirting to me." "Well, I talk like that to everybody." "You never talk like that to me." "Because I just don't like you like that." I had doubled over laughing at all of this. I don't know if it was the fact that he actually said that, and it happened to be funny to me, or that the situation was just awkward. Suddenly a customer had walked in at this point. The tension had vaporized as we were all smiles for them, saved by the door, I suppose. Some time goes by. Me and Shaggy are bullying each other while we were just making pizzas, when suddenly PizzaBeard approaches us to help. Sometimes I forget that I'm a girl. So when Shaggy tossed a mushroom onto the pizza that I was making, I didn't think of the consequences when I told him to eat my ass. A clutching grasp from behind me brings me back to the reality that while it is funny and quirky when the boys say stuff like that, it's slutty and sexual when a girl happens to say it. I spun around to see the neckbeard running to the back, saying, boss lady, they're talking about sex." Shaggy had smacked the back of my head. Shaggy and I were very quickly called into the office. She was sitting there, glaring at both of us from her chair. "Do you two think that it's appropriate to be discussing sexual acts while working? What if a customer were to hear you say any of that kind of stuff?" I was on the verge of crying at this point, but Shaggy had talked her down, explained to her exactly what had happened. The boss lady was not amused with it. Suddenly I blurted out, "I'm not into men. I don't like Shaggy. I like boobs." The boss lady had set down her paper and sighed. "All right, just watch what you two are talking about." We were let off with no more than just a warning. I didn't tell the neckbeard about that for a while afterwards, because apparently he was thinking that me and Shaggy were getting way too friendly. We continued on for a little while, though the boss lady had ignored him after all of that. After a few months, I was no longer that ultimate my lady for the neckbeard to save from Shaggy. A new girl happened to start working, and what should I call her? Something that describes her, that's for sure. Dump truck, I guess. No, that's too on the nose. I'll just call her Texas. The second that Texas had walked into the door, PizzaBeard had blew a gasket. He cleared the kitchen in less than a second, sending other coworkers flying across the room. "Hey, you're new here, right?" He had introduced himself. "You're gonna need someone to show you how to work this place." "I'll show you," he says. Suddenly she sees Shaggy and yells out, "Oh my God, Shaggy!" It should appear that Texas was one of Shaggy's older sister's best friends. "Ew," he says. "Oh, you shut up, you goober. How have you been?" she asks. Things like that. Then they talked for about 10 minutes about whatever came to mind. And all the while, the neckbeard was just standing there, just seething. Shaggy, of course, began to show her the way of the pizza shop. This made the neckbeard very unhappy, after all. He was supposed to show the girl how to do the pizza. Suddenly I watched him approach the boss and whisper in her ear, making a proposition. Suddenly, Shaggy with the mobster accent. "Hey, I'm gonna show you how to make one hell of a pizza, my guy. I'm gonna have you making the pizza so good that the fat Faccini would be proud to eat them." She laughed, and all of a sudden the boss took this as the trigger. "Shaggy, you happen to have a girlfriend. You need to stop flirting." "God damn it, woman, would you not?" Shaggy took the rag from his back pocket and slapped it right onto the ground. "I'm just joking with this girl. I'm not flirting with her like you think. You happen to think that I'm flirting with everybody who walks into this place." As Shaggy screeched like a madman for the first and last time that I have ever seen, PizzaBeard approached her. "Is he making you uncomfortable?" "Oh my God, Shaggy, you have a girlfriend now? That is so cute." PizzaBeard had tapped her on the shoulder. "Is Shaggy making you feel uncomfortable?" She's ignoring him, saying that it's like my little brother got a girlfriend. That's so cute. PizzaBeard continues to ask her. "You absolutely have to introduce me to her," she says. "Is he making you uncomfortable?" PizzaBeard asks. "Would you just stop?" she yells at him. "Okay," he said, and then stood there like a lump for a moment, while Shaggy had filled Texas on his current relationship details. To neckbeard's credit, when a girl had told him that he was either already in a relationship or that she wasn't interested, he would not harass her about that. He was still a creep sometimes, though, most of the time. But sexual harassment was not a thing that we had to worry about with him. Thank God. This happened to me during last fall, October to be precise. My mom, who happens to be in her late 40s, and I in my early 20s, like to go on garage sales just for fun. Last fall, we were hitting up our neighborhood sale that had popped up for that weekend. We were just winding down and enjoying ourselves. We decided that one last house in the neighborhood, and then we'd go do some errands, since it was late morning. At this garage sale, we happened to find a few things. Some nice sweaters for my student teaching in the spring, a wreath for our Christmas decor, and some interesting Pokemon toys. I thought that all these things were cool. I knew my brother would use one of them, or both of them, so I go to buy them. Running the garage sale happens to be a couple, maybe a little bit older than my mother. A lady who is a little older than that, and a guy my age that I'll just call B. He happened to be wearing red and black Superman t-shirt, and had stubble on his face, and it went down his neck. His hair happened to be greasy. It was kind of stuck to his head, just a little bit. He started talking to me once I had came up, asked me how the toys were. He looked at me and said, "You know, I didn't think that anyone would really want these, or even know what these were." And I just looked at him. "Oh yeah, I happen to love Pokemon. I still play Pokemon Go." It started a small 1 to 12 minute conversation about Pokemon. Then he complains about having to get up early just to pull out all of the stuff that they wanted to sell. Turns out the older people were his parents and his aunt. No judgment there. I still live with my parents while I happen to be going to college. His aunt stares at me and says, "You can actually understand what he's talking about?" I laugh nervously and confirm that I can, and that Pokemon is pretty popular these days. I don't talk to him anymore after this. He helps get my mom's stuff from the sale to our car while she's talking to him. I just kind of listen. He happens to be 23 years old, works 3 very low maintenance jobs. He isn't going to college, has no plans to move out. As we get to the car, his aunt yells at him, "Why don't you get her number?" We laugh, and then we get into the car. When my mom and I pull out, his aunt happens to be chasing us down the driveway and is waving her arms at us. She happens to stop us. My mom rolls down the windows. His aunt looks directly at me and says, "Look, you're the first person who knows what he is talking about. Can I just get your number so I can give it to him?" I stare at her, then look at my mother to see what I should do, who happens to be smiling pretty wide at this point and nodding. This gives me a feeling, I guess. I don't like it. I don't want to talk to him. I should have said no at this point, but I give him my number because I'm a huge pushover. Well, later, we're in the store. He starts texting me. He immediately asks me out to ice cream for that same day. I say that I can't because I have errands that I have to run. When he says, "What about Sunday?" I told him that I have something else to do. Neither of my explanations are lies. We talk for a little while. Then he seems interested in taking things to the next level, talking about dates, especially ones that he would take girls out on, and how many girls he had until I gradually stopped texting him. That feeling that I got became much stronger. Suddenly, he finds my Facebook page. Mind you, he only knows my first name. He sends me a Pokemon thing through Messenger. I don't respond to it. He doesn't add me to Facebook as a friend, though. I do take the advantage to go check out his page. Literally, there isn't a single picture of him not wearing a comic t-shirt. I see a friend of his that I go to school with, who happens to be a mutual friend of his. I decide to ask her about him. My friend had been pushing me to accept a date, or just keep him on the back burner, telling me not to mark him off, but to also think about it. That feeling had become a pounding in the back of my mind. I had suddenly told them no, that I don't like him, and I don't think I ever will like him. He had been bothering me for a few days now, hitting me with literal "what are you doing? You up?" and trying to bring up inappropriate conversations in between any Pokemon discussions that we had had. I ended up telling him that I'm busy, or that I'm not ready yet. I'd rather just talk a little while longer. We'd just meet. He would talk about wanting to visit me at college. So I ended up asking one of my friends a couple of days after I get back to the dorm. She looks pretty confused and asks me, "He went to my high school. How do you even know him?" I told her everything and asked what she knows about him. She looks directly at me and says gingerly, "He threatened to shoot up the high school." "Excuse me? What did you say?" He threatened to shoot up a school. Then the feeling suddenly turned into wee-woo moments. The police had gone to his house, confiscated all of the weapons that he had. No one was hurt, but still, the reputation he had followed him to the local community college. He dropped out shortly after. He hadn't been able to keep a job either, with the reputation, and with no degree. So I'm in my 30s. I'm a guy who travels a lot because of my work. One of the guys in the new place introduced me to the great world of Warhammer 40k miniature game. I'm completely in love with it. I was thrilled to find a very small community that happens to be in my city. So I happened to contact them. I set up a meeting place in the public area of one of the guy's residential units. The first meeting happens to be a success. I only played one very long game. It was completely obliterated, but I happened to have a lot of fun. Here I met the subject of the story. I will call him Marco. That's not his real name, though. He's a little younger, and is actually somewhat attractive. Being tall, he's probably about 6'2", thin, with a small beer belly. He has curly hair. His best feature was his green eyes. The problem happens to be is that the guy has a very unkempt appearance. He doesn't seem to brush his hair, and it also looks very dirty. He dresses with weird anime t-shirts, has a scruffy beard, and smells quite a bit. I don't think that it's him, but perhaps some unwashed t-shirts. But the worst is that he's been an asshole to me since we met. This is a selection of the shit that he has told me, and only 4 game meetings, mind you. The only reason that I work out is to compensate for being a pygmy. I'm pretty short. I'm about 5'5". I've been trying and failing to enroll in a master's degree. This is my 3rd try, and he quickly points out that if I happen to fail the first time, then I'm not cut out for it, and I should quit. At this point, I was about to deck him. That I'm a grown-ass man, and I should quit being so vain. That's when I told the group that I exercise about 4 times a week, sometimes even more. That I should dress according to my age and my job. This coming from Mr. Dragon stamped t-shirt over there. After that comment about my master's degree, and 2 of the other members, a lovely married couple that happened to be about my age, called me sometime after our last game to apologize to me and assure me that they would speak to him about it. Now during this conversation, and the topic of me being gay, and that my last relationship had crashed and burned because of my ex cheating on me, out of the blue, they happen to tell me that Marco is also gay, to which I tell him, that's nice. Mind you, I don't give a fuck about that. Just tell him to get off my back, I tell them. Not 2 hours later, he calls me to apologize, saying that it was all in good faith, and that he didn't think that I would be offended. He never actually said, dude, I'm sorry. And then he drops the bomb. He tells me that since I'm single, that we should hang out at his place and see what happens. In what universe does this guy really live? I try to be diplomatic and try to let him know that I'm really not interested in him. But then this guy happens to blow up, telling me that I should be lucky that he's even interested in someone my age. That not even with my gym body, I could keep a boyfriend. And then I'm just another superficial F-word. At this point, I happen to be fed up. I told him that if I ever see him again, I will beat the living shit out of him. After that, I had hung up the phone with him. Mind you, the conversation was longer than that, but the rest happened to be meaningless. It's really not the most mature response, but I'm tired of this dude. Unfortunately, I think I'm not going back to that game group. There seems to be friends, and they shared private information with him. Sadly, seems that my Necron warriors still have an early retirement to them. Oh well.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.